Hello, and welcome to Elantum Digital's Publishing by the Numbers, where we help authors and self-publishers create quality books and build successful self-publishing businesses.
Hi, guys. Welcome to the Publishing by the Numbers podcast and YouTube show. I'm Jana S. Brown, and I'm here with my two co-hosts, Virginia Anderson. Hi, Virginia.
Hello.
And CJ Anaya. And we are on podcast number 8. It is the end of November when this will be going out, which means that Nano is coming to an end. Congratulations to everyone who participated. Notice that I didn't say who won. We don't care whether you won Nano or not. We care that you participated, that you had a good time. But knowing that Nano has been happening and that you've all been slaving away over those words, or maybe slaving away over the last few, since there's a couple more days left, you can still get them in. We wanted to talk a little bit today about the process of self-editing. And now that you've got this manuscript, what do you do with it? And after some talking, we decided that because CJ and I are both professional editors, we have opinions. We have big opinions on self-editing. And Virginia is going to take over the show, and she is going to ask us questions. We're going to do our best to answer them. And when she runs out of questions, then we'll run out of show. So Virginia, take it away.
Okay, this is a very dangerous decision, because I hope you guys are ready, because we might be here for a while, because I have a lot of questions. And you know how I can be really short and concise. So what is self-editing? And I think even as one more question before that one is, why do we do editing at all?
There's an expectation from our readers that what we give them is going to be readable. And this has not always been the case. So there are a lot of very famous authors out there. Mark Twain comes to mind, who pretty much looked at all of your grammar and all that kind of stuff as wild suggestions that he might do and he might not, and he didn't care. But we are not all Mark Twain, because he was able to get his meaning across, whether or not he was using all of the standard conventions. And what we find is that readers expect standard conventions. They expect a certain formatting. They expect words to be done in a certain way so that you get understanding. And that's the biggest thing that editing is for, is so that your wonderful manuscript and your wonderful stories can be understood. Because if they can't be understood, then you haven't done anything for your reader. And most of us as writers, or as people that are creating stories with a ghostwriter, we want to create something that then readers are going to want to A, pay for. And so it's got to be polished, or they don't want to pay for it. And B, they're going to understand and enjoy, so that C, they will come back and buy more from us. So that's why we need editing altogether, is so that our manuscripts go out and they can be understood and people want more of them. Anything to add, CJ?
No, I think you covered it exactly as I would have, probably better. So no, that was great.
Awesome. So while we're with you, CJ, what is self-editing?
Self-editing is when you, as the author, take your manuscript after you haven't looked at it for a good month, possibly 2. I mean, that's my personal preference, by the way. You can do whatever you want, but it's when you've given it some room to breathe. And you go back in and you look at it with fresh eyes, and you really start to look at it critically rather than creatively, because that's 2 different parts of our brain, right? So we want to go in as the critic and analyzing, okay, how does this flow? Is what I'm writing making sense? Are the ideas coming across the way that they need to? And the reason why I say give yourself some time and let that manuscript breathe is because it's very hard to look at it when you've just been in it. You will miss everything. You just will. And no author can actually self-edit to the extent that it's perfect. You really do need to do a professional edit or have a professional edit. But self-editing is all about you as the author going in and making it the best that it can be before you hand it over to a professional that can take it to that next level that you really can't, either because you don't have the necessary knowledge, the necessary experience, or simply because it's your story and you're too close to it and you really do need another set of eyes on that. So with self-editing, you're just going through and making it the best you can be in various ways, paying attention to different things like grammar, style, flow, whatever you can catch, that's what you're doing. as the author?
Okay, so you know how I'm all about efficiency, productivity. So why do I need to learn about self-editing, and why can I not just hire a professional to do it for me straight away? Jana, do you want to take over?
Mm-hmm. You can totally hire a professional to take it straight away. However, there's a couple of caveats that come with that. Number one, the messier a manuscript is when it goes to a professional, the more they will charge you. So most professional editors have a range that they're going to charge, and they'll want to look at a sample of your work. And based on that sample, if it is very, very messy and they're going to spend a lot of time in the details, pulling things out and that kind of thing, you're going to get a 3 to 5 cent per word edit or more. If it comes through and it's really, really clean already, and the editor can look at it and go, oh yeah, this is something where I'm not going to have to spend a lot of time slogging through your homophones and homonyms and all those other things, then you're going to get a less expensive edit. It will also come back to you faster. And if your editor isn't having to get through just the language to see what the book is doing, you get a better edit. I can pay a lot more attention to the details of your beautiful story arc and your characters and that kind of thing if I'm not continually being thrown out of the story by little things that you could fix. Like, is it steak, S-T-E-A-K, or steak, S-T-A-K-E? Well, if it's wrong all the time, it throws me out of the story and I'm going to miss things that otherwise I can give you a lot more information on. So you cleaning it up first means that the polish job your editor does will be cheaper, faster, and it's going to be a lot better polish. So yeah, you can just hire someone if you're willing to pay a lot. And also, I will reject them if they're too big, because sometimes there is not enough money in the world for me to slog through something where the author doesn't have enough pride in themselves to do at least a pass to do their best before it comes to me.
Ooh,
and there is my snobbishness showing up.
Well, and I actually want to speak to that because I recently had someone hand me their manuscript, a client who knows better, dang it. But I swear they gave me their rough draft and something they never looked at. And the problem with that is the level of rewrites that would have been involved that they may or may not have expected me to do. And to some extent, when I do developmental editing, I do point out all of the issues. But if someone is struggling to actually implement, then I'm helping them implement, and that's costing them more money as well. And sometimes you just don't want to touch it because you know the level of work necessary would then make it your book and not theirs, right? Mm-hmm. And you don't want that responsibility, and you really don't want that headache. So yeah, there have been a few manuscripts I've rejected because I've just thought, no, you really, you know better, and you need to go back and work this before you even show it to me, you know, or anyone else for that matter. So I agree.
All right. So, okay. So it got me thinking, right? Okay. So this is a fair bit of work. And you know how I love a gadget. I love gadget. I love technology. I love all those things that can remove some input from me. Is there any software or any gadgets that I can use to do this for me? Jana?
Sort of.
Yes, sort of. Exactly. That was what I was going to say to a point. I know of, well, I've used Grammarly before, but I found it a little clunky in some areas. I think it's good to catch typos, and I think it's good to catch a few grammar issues here and there. I know the Pro one is a little more advanced. And then, Jana, have you used Prowriting Aid? Mm-hmm. Okay. Can you talk about that?
Let me actually circle back. There's also a difference between Grammarly and Gramatica. Gramatica is Microsoft Word's version of a grammar fixer, and it sucks. It is drunk half of the time. Every now and again, it does turn me on to something where I go, okay, that this is actually needs to be fixed, but it never needs to be fixed in the way that Gramatica thinks it needs to be fixed.
Right.
And it's very often just utterly wrong. So Prowriting Aid and Grammarly, which are both online programs, those are both better. Hemingway Online is actually pretty good as well for looking at big story structure. But the biggest thing is using all of these is great to get you a certain percentage of the way there. But computers are not smart enough to understand a lot of context. They don't understand emotion. They don't understand sarcasm. They definitely don't understand dialogue. And so there are things where the computer is just not capable of doing it in the way that a person is, starting with you as the author. And I think one of my favorite examples is dialogue involving teenagers. Because if you're writing dialogue that really sounds like any two teenagers speaking to each other, my children never spoke in perfectly grammatical sentences. I don't think to this day, now that they are not teenagers, that they speak in entirely grammatical sentences. They say things like, "Hey, dude, sup, come here," and I'm going to smack you in the brain, and things that you put that through a grammar checker, and it dies. It has no idea how to parse language. And it gets even worse when you start thinking about dialects and different word usage that you get in different parts of the world, much less different parts of the country. I write a series that all takes place in New Orleans, and the New Orleans accent and word choice is something that Prowriting Aid took one look at it and just died. It just could not figure out what I was saying. Absolutely everything was marked up as being wrong. And I'm like, no, it's all perfectly good dialogue. The only thing it got right was an extra comma. So yes, it can help. And it's definitely not a bad idea to run your manuscript through something like this and consider the changes, but don't accept them wholesale. And it does not replace a set of experienced human eyes who can apply context to it and make sure that contextually it's correct.
Okay, so on a more philosophical point of view, because I'm all about, philosophical matters, it's actually a good thing, because I think writers and authors, this is one of the last standing professions that cannot be replaced by AI, so artificial intelligence, and this is great, and it means there's it's infinite, the amount of books that you can write, the amount of stories that you can imagine. I find that really beautiful, actually. It's a really beautiful thing that we human can do,
Well, and I can't stress the importance of, because we are human, and because we are uniquely human in that way, the importance of just your own author voice and the nuance you bring to language from your own experiences and from the way you envision your characters. And if you can take the time to self-edit and to really narrow in and dive in and focus in on enhancing those characters, enhancing the character voice, enhancing your own voice as an author telling it, then that comes across so much clearer to an editor. And it's every hope, even though we get the tough jobs and we do them, what we love to see when we edit is someone's voice coming in really, really strong, because that means they took that time to self-edit and get it to that point. And so it makes helping authors a little bit easier, because we're not in the process of helping them find their voice. That's uniquely theirs, so I think that, AI really can't replace the beauty that humans bring to their own experiences and to their own creativity, I guess you could say. So self-editing is so important in that stage. Don't do it during the rough draft. No, don't do that. You'll drive yourself crazy. But afterward, definitely start that process of polishing and getting it to where you need it to be.
What you guys have said is really, really good. So the online checkers, the other thing they'll do is they'll edit your voice out, because they're trying to make it standardized to a set of rules and restrictions. So that's the other reason that I say use them, but always check things. Don't just accept everything that they say, because sometimes your usage, even if it's slightly incorrect or it's slightly different than what Prowriting Aid would suggest, that's part of what brings your voice out. And the job of something like Prowriting Aid is to make everything standard. So really, it actually works better with nonfiction, where we're often looking for something that's going to be, especially if it's not creative nonfiction, if it's educational nonfiction, where we need a really good logical flow, things like that. They work better on those kind of projects. But the more personal it is, the more voice that's in there, the more careful you want to be with those, so they don't edit out the wonderfulness that is you.
And because I guess language is not dead, right? It's constantly moving, changing, and there's new words coming in play. There's I mean, even, I'm in Australia, you guys are in the US, there's vocabularies that you guys use that I've never heard of, that I found highly entertaining. And also depending on which, let's say if you're writing historical fiction, you need to make sure that the vocabulary you use is in line with the period in which the story takes place. So all those things cannot be picked up by those software. So how can a author learn to self-edit? What goes into it?
It is work. And the nice thing, though, whether it's nice or not, I guess, is with every book, you're going to get better at it. The first time that you hit your self-editing, you're not going to catch everything and it's going to be messy. But with every book that comes out and the more that you do it, the better you're going to get. So I think that there are kind of 3 hats that I have authors wear when they're doing their self-editing. And the first one is a structural hat, which is very close to the developmental editing that we're going to talk about editing all month in December, and we're going to talk more about that. But it's looking at, does the structure of the story work? Does it make sense? Do the characters make sense? Do the relationships make sense? And you wear that structural hat, and that's big stuff. And then you switch over to a hat that is all about the details that are grammatical and that are repetition, cliches, all of that kind of stuff. And you're looking at those details. And with those, that's actually sometimes the easier of it, because there are so many references that you can use to help figure things out. So you can use things like the Chicago Manual of Style, which will tell you, is this phrase supposed to be written this way or not? You can look at the dictionary, and the dictionary will say, this word should always be hyphenated. Or like, I was working on a piece the other day, and rear view, like a rear view mirror. I had to go to 2 dictionaries and they both said it's one word. So you can get resources like this that will tell you, and you don't have to wonder, is it one word or is it 2? The dictionary says that it's one word. I am going to consistently make it one word. So that's actually it's a detailed hat, but it's easy because there's a lot of online references that you can use to say, this is how it is correct. And then the last one is the reader hat. And that's to look at it and to say, is it enjoyable? Would I read more from me? Because if you read it and you go, this person sucks, well, then maybe you don't want to give it to everybody else. Now, some of that can get tied up in imposter syndrome, which is its very own episode. But you do want to say, do I kind of enjoy reading my own stuff? So those are the pieces to being able to self-edit. And again, you learn those the more that you read other people's work, because that teaches you about structure, teaches you about grammar. The more that you learn those grammatical things, you can take grammar classes online, you can pull resources, and then that other is just being a reader and being part of the industry. CJ, anything else you'd add there?
I think also sometimes people think, well, where do I start? And I love that idea of those 3 phases, the 3 different things that you suggested. If you're having a hard time knowing what exactly, because I know some people, they actually have like a set of self-editing steps. They have a checklist where they look at the structure, like you said, but within it, they've got a list of things to look for. And so there are a lot of blogs, a lot of folks online who can give you a list of self-editing tasks. So to help you keep yourself on task and help remind you of things you can look for big picture, things you can look for a little more granularly. And then we all have our own little missteps or errors that are our favorites that we do all the time. I have a couple of homophones that I never get right. The word peak, there's 3 of those dang things. There's you peak, the peak of the mountain, and it piqued my curiosity, and all of those. So there are a couple of things that I know, for whatever reason, my brain trips up. And then there are words that I will use repeatedly, and so that's in my list of things to self-edit. So you'll get to know yourself enough to know where you have a few weaknesses, and you always need to check those. So I think if you feel a little overwhelmed at the idea of self-editing, then maybe look for those blog posts where you can find some checklists on where to start and where to begin and what to focus on. And that can help you in your process.
Another great source to learn about self-editing. It's our very own Jana's new book. Do you want to talk about that?
Just a little bit. We won't take too long because we try not to do this very often on the podcast. But what's the fun of having a podcast if you can't occasionally hawk your wares, which is another one that's spelled really, really weird when you're hawking your wares, just, in case you wanted to know. I had to look that up for another manuscript too. So because this question does come up a lot, I wrote a book about it. Because as writers, that's one of the ways that we solve problems. There was a pain point of people don't know how to self-edit. So I wrote a book, and it does break out everything into those 3 different categories. But we go into a lot more detail about, what are you looking for when you're looking at those big structure things, and it breaks it so that we talk about A plots, we talk about B plots, we talk about each of the characters having their own plot and then having relationship plots. In the center section, I go through and we talk about filter words, and we talk about repetition, and we talk about starting or began, because those 2 drive me crazy. You don't start to do something unless you're going to get stopped. And, so otherwise you just do the thing. Why are you not just doing the thing? So I come up with a whole list, and it's supposed to be a starting place for clients to build their own lists, because I agreed that everybody should have their own hit list that says, these are things that I know about myself. I always use this word wrong, so I should check it in every manuscript that I put out there. I always do this, that, and the other. I should always check it in every single manuscript. And again, one of the other things I talk about is when we're checking these things, we're not just universally accepting. It's the same thing as when we were talking about the software. Sometimes you do want to say it was only a little bit dark. Other times you just want to say it was damn dark. You have to know, when is that right? I'm allowed to use that one. It's still PG.
Yes, it is.
CJ's laughing at
me. I wasn't
going
to edit it. No, you go.
No. So it's knowing, when do you need those things? Because there are times you do. Some things are just flat out wrong. Misspellings are usually misspellings, but especially when we get into repetition and other usage, we have to know, when is it wrong? When is it a character quirk? And when can you sprinkle just a little bit over it? And that makes the book more interesting versus saying, oh no, we're just going to pull it all out. Again, we want to preserve our author voice. So the book should be out, fingers crossed, in time to go with this podcast, and to help people as they're coming out of Nano and they're looking at their manuscript and trying to decide what to do with it. So I'm really excited. I've been working on this one for a while, and I'm excited to get it out there and hopefully help people get their self-editing under control.
Well,
I'm grabbing it. So
yeah, I'm grabbing it. I'm definitely grabbing it. I will add the link in the show notes.
Absolutely.
So I feel like we didn't talk that much about self-editing, but at the same time, I feel quite exhausted, because I feel like there's a lot of things putting into that. But I do want to say, it does seem like a lot of work, but it is the narrative that you put around whatever you do that matters. So if your narrative is, oh, holy beep, I do not want to do this is going to be really difficult. But if you make it like, okay, this is the part of the process of creating a book, so change the narrative. So I think, okay, I don't really like to be in this the driver's seat. So Jana,
that's all right.
Back to you.
Fantastic. I will take the driver's seat back over. I do so love my driver's seat. So Virginia's right. We haven't hit into some of the details. We will get into some more details in another show. We're going to spend all of December talking about editing. We're going to have some editing guests come, which is always fun. And so this is a really good time, is if you want to look at November is the month that you're going to write your novel. December and January should probably be your months for editing, for cleaning up, and then making decisions about what you're going to do with it, whether that's to go self-publishing or to start putting it out as a query. I've read several blogs from agents for big traditional publishing houses, And they hate December because they get all of these unpolished nano manuscripts. And they're like, we're going right into the holidays, and I get all of these manuscripts that are not ready. And that's the first impression you're making on somebody. And so especially if you're wanting to go that direction, you want to present these agents with the very best that you can, not with something that you just finished writing the end on 2 days ago. And even taking it to an editor or self-publishing, same thing. You don't want to give your readers something you just wrote the end on 2 days ago, and it hasn't had that chance to be made bright and shiny. So just think about how you're presenting yourself, because it's that old thing about you never get a second chance to make a first impression. If the first thing that I read from you as a reader is full of errors and I can't get through it, am I going to come back? So this is all about really shining you up. So it isn't always an easy process, but I do think it's fun in that you're taking something you've made and you're making it even better. You're adding the layers that make it beautiful. So anyway, let's now kick over to our very favorite part of the show. CJ, what in your world is utterly irrelevant?
Okay, so for December every year, we always plan this 12 days of Christmas marathon where we're surprising like 2 or 3 different families with like a surprise every day, 12 days before Christmas every day. So this involves a lot of what my son would call acrobatics and sneakiness and ninja moves and spying, because we have to do it at night and we have to put it on their doorstep. And usually by day 3, they're aware that they're going to be getting more gifts as we get closer. So then, because they know that it's coming, we have to get even sneakier, and we have to find ways to put it on their doorstep and hide without them finding us. And I got to tell you, it's coming, and I will give you updates as to how it goes. But it's been interesting. I believe we set off a car alarm last year. That was fun. A dog was barking the other year and motion sensors got kicked off and they had security cameras. And I was like, come on, man, nobody can just leave an anonymous gift anymore without being found out. This is ridiculous. So this year we're trying to find people who are less high tech. That has now become a criteria. And I'll let you guys know how that goes. It's going to be fun.
Fantastic.
What about you, Jana?
So this podcast should be going out on the 27th. And here in the United States, that is right after our Thanksgiving. And so I have to tell you about my Thanksgiving tradition, and that is the fact that I love to bake. And I like to bake a lot. And my sons know this, and my sons like to eat a lot. So last week, I will have made probably 24 pies, which means that by the time this podcast goes out, we will still be eating the last of the 24 pies, except that we will have sent as many possible home with the children. But everybody has a different favorite. And so by the time I go through and I say, what kind of pie do you want? Well, I end up with, well, we need a pumpkin cake, we need an apple pie, and we need a banana, and we need a coconut cream, and we need a chocolate cream, and we need a cow pie, and we need, the list goes on and on and on. So by the time that I have finished, we have made an excessive amount of pie. And then once the pie is gone, we will head into December, and December is candy making season, y'all. So this is my favorite time of year when it comes to what's happening in my kitchen, and I'm very excited about the whole thing.
Jesus, oh my God.
All right, Virginia, take us home.
This is a really great segue to my irrelevant moment. And that is, there's a lot of things going on in my head, right? It's very difficult to be me. And I'm trying to find a way to let things out. So I've heard these things called exercise. As you know, I do not know what that means. And I've decided, you know what? I'm going to give it a try. So I have this treadmill because I'm all about efficiency and productivity. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to put this treadmill under my standing desk so I can work and do treadmill at the same time. So yeah, so that's it's very efficient. But then I thought I'm going to push the efficiency to another level because I'm doing this on a daily basis because it's, guys, it's all about consistency. It's not about 5 hours of work a week. It's more about every day a little bit, right? So,
right.
So how can I bring the efficiency to another level? And that is not wearing any pants. Just stay in my underwear because that will save me from washing my pants. Like 5 pair of pants. This is a lot. Like, no. So just in underwear, on my treadmill.
Just running free. Yeah, got it.
And then I'm saving water. So this is good for environment. I'm saving on time washing those pants. And I'm saving time folding those pants back in the closet. I mean, like, isn't that genius? But wait for it. I'm pushing the efficiency to another level. This is the ultimate, like efficiency, like playbook. Is that I love eating. I love food, right? What if I do the treadmill in my underwear and eat my croissant at the same time? So it's like I'm having all the benefit of this delicious food without putting on the weight. And I'm exercising to unload my mental load. And I can do the
I think it's beautiful. Really.
So I'm protecting the environment. I think I've saved. I think this is it.
It's the pinnacle of perfection.
I'm the savior. I'm the savior of the world. So I think
the exercising productivity world.
I mean, come on, guys. So here we go. Here we go. Jana.
All right. And on that highly efficient note, thanks guys for joining us. You can find the show notes and the show at www.alantumdigital.com and follow the podcast on YouTube or your favorite podcast distributor. If you enjoyed the show, please subscribe and leave a review. We'll see y'all later.
Bye.
Bye, guys.